Hello, my friends, beautiful people. We're back. After, I guess it's been like a month of, let's see, me trying to. When was the last video I posted? 3 weeks ago. That I have been, I guess a month ago, that I've been trying my best to solve this problem. And I've been completely unable to do it. And I think I now understand. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to try and implement the what we call here the update function. And when we've implemented the update function, that enables us to run our steady state, which then allows us to begin to start to find out the things that we're wrong about. Like, for example, some of these things. And the many other ways in which we can find out that we're wrong. So, it turns out we can solve this problem incredibly simply. And I'm tempted to try and motivate it to you, but I think I'm going to leave that to future me. And we're just going to implement it. This is going to be called what do we call this? I named it here. Presumption. And presumption will be a type of valuation. And it will be set to I guess by default. It'll be set to this valuation. One sec, let me respond to this. So then we set presumption to presumption. Watch this. Union. Is that allowed? Thank you. Okay. And then we say if not valuation else Need to remember my Python. Okay. And now what? So I'm giving you a hint of how this presumption is used. But there's a little bit more for us to do here. So the story that we're trying to tell ourselves with the presumption is that if you know where the valuation is going to finally land, then you're capable of calculating your inflation. But that's only true if you're going to hold this money until the end of days. If you're going to be spending this money today, well, okay. If you're going to be spending this money today, oh yeah. If you're going to be spending this money today, then you're, this isn't part of your savings, which means that the inflation that you incur doesn't affect you. In that way. Okay. I think that makes sense. Okay. So let's just write a little micro function here to calculate the inflation. This is the loss due to inflation of an imagined valuation. So kind of what this says is that a wise person would set their presumption close to the collective valuation. You'd be kind of silly to set it far away. Okay. And so to calculate this, we say that your if this is a gain, it'll be a negative loss. So then what we do is we say something like, okay, imagine that you have figure out the value of your wallet according to your current valuation, and then compare that to the valuation when you have the presumption of where it will land. Okay, so that is no. And then this actually could be so we've moved the problem, but it's always surprising what happens when you move the problem like this. Arguably, this is how this is how like Newton's method works, and indices in general are really useful. Anyway, I'm kind of just making vague arguments at you, but I promise if you ask me about it and you catch me right now in my current mode of thinking, then it'll make sense. And then valuation is going to be changed is going to be valuation if S valuation is not else valuation. Oh, we never checked that code. Great. So by default, we'll just be calculating the valuation, the inflation loss. Oh. Yeah. We're sticking with a presumption. It's actually a good model of what will go on in real life. Getting it to show up in here might take a little bit more work, but it's fine. Okay, so so as it is right now, we should be able to define a player. I have a bunch of players down here. Bunch of Perlin noise. Okay. Tim has made it into the game. Actually, wait. I'm killing Tim for Tom so that we don't override our thing down below. And you can just have the default valuation and expectation, and we want to see what you return for inflation. And that is correct. Now, well, I guess we can do this. Tom.valuation equals, so if you increase the valuation to something like 2, it should be expensive. Yeah. And why is it that you've lost that much? 75. Let's check if that's right. So, oh, it's a gain, right? Because it's a loss. So you have a negative inflation. You have this gain of 75. What's in your wallet? Okay, let's work this out here. So Hmm. Hmm. Man. Okay. Okay, so when I change my valuation, this is hard. Okay, let's just write about it. Honestly, why is this so hard? It's like, I'm so stuck. Why? I don't want to keep going. Please save me from my code. I genuinely don't know. Don't fail. Okay, so someone has these things in their wallet. Right. And then what? This is according to some valuation. And then what? Oops. What the fuck? But it doesn't matter what their valuation is. It matters what everybody else's valuation is. You know, the value of money is what you can buy with it. So where they set their valuation has no impact on their purchasing power. It's one of these do calculus things. It's like, as a result of setting their valuation, they're going to attract more of a certain clientele who are going to hold more of a currency associated with some good. So they're going to become more involved in that community, and that community is going to invite them in. Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. And then what? Then what? Right, yeah. Setting your valuation is a lot like buying the currency. You're going to set it higher insofar as you think that other people are going to set it higher. But unlike buying the currency, it doesn't cost you anything immediately to do so. Well, it costs you when everybody else does, because then you. Yeah, so you have to know your causal role in increasing the valuation of something. That's what you need to know. Your causal role. But the valuation elsewhere. What's the probability? What's the expected value of the change? This is what you need to calculate. Expected value of the change given delta to valuation. That's sort of like a delta. Does this work? No. Okay. I know it's a derivative, but that's fine. I think I have a delta symbol that I've logged, that I've set up here. I know it's very important. No. How I find all my. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's so close. These are worth learning. So Yeah. So this is the this is what we want to calculate. Cool. I'm thinking about the things that I have said. How do we calculate that? Well, and then if we want to be really, it's the NPV of this, but we're not gonna confuse ourselves right now. We're sufficiently confused, I promise. It's too hard. You can't compute that. You cannot compute that. You can infer it, but you cannot compute it. Okay. I think that answers our question. The reason we're having so much trouble computing the inflation caused by a change in valuation is because there is not any inflation caused by a change in valuation. When I change my valuation, it does not cause inflation to change. It's only when other people change valuation. In fact, in particular, the vendors that I'm interested in purchasing from. What's cool about this is that everybody wants prices to be as low as possible. That's thing one. And thing two is everyone wants inflation to be low. But they also want to maximize business. Well, the point is that minimizing inflation I guess that's not true. Yeah, I guess it is. Minimizing inflation means maximizing local autonomy. It's just kind of cool. And two communities that don't. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's two parts to our change in purchasing power now. There is. That's actually cool. So, if another community mints a whole stack of tokens of community currency, if we don't increase our valuation of those things, then we might miss out on business from them. So we become, yeah. So this is that tolerance incentive that we talked about before. A way to summarize this is the more that we value other groups getting what they want, the more business we'll have. I mean, that's a cool property. That's a cool property. Me changing my valuation doesn't change purchasing power. Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense. It does yoke me to a community that has some set of currencies that then, the future valuation of those currencies is unknown. No, pre-Civil War. I should be using I thought they were talking about themselves. It's a nice little. Is it going to the right place? I think it spins too far. No. Spins the right amount. You'll be happy to know. It looks like it spins too much because it has more little thingies on it, you know? I know that was the thing that was just burning up inside of you, but mm-hmm. Yeah, but I want to know if it was useful for funding local public goods. So I agree that compared to a single global currency, um, having many currencies is like beneficial for localization, um, or local independence. But hmm. Hmm. And then here we are, decades later, the champions of laissez-faire, decades, centuries. Okay. I mean, technically, we made progress. I don't want to post this one because it's just me groaning and moaning and staring at a screen again. But I mean, does that get us all the way? Like, hmm. You change your valuation. It'll actually be fun to measure wealth in terms of energy. That'll be cool. Because you'll need some basis for knowing how much of the pie you don't have access to anymore, and so measuring it in nats or joules. It's cool. Okay. I think I want to be done. I don't want to publish this one, but I'm going to publish this one because it's time to keep going. And so now we know this doesn't matter. This is not a good measure of inflation. We're back to this. I think it is. You could leave it in. You wouldn't use this anymore. But you basically say, like, what do I think? What does this person think is the proper allocation? What do they think it's going to be worth in the future? And then that would be a part of them evaluating, if I change this valuation, I get all these new customers. And I think that in the future, these community currencies are going to be worth more. This is their steady state value. And that has a self-fulfilling prophecy element to it. You won't be calculating inflation anymore. You'll be calculating the value of new business yeah, it's just basically the value of new business that you think you'll keep, meaning the value of new money that you think you'll have in savings at some point in the future. Okay, so that now requires you to find out how much of this you're going to spend by then and how much of it you'll have in circulation. And even in vaguely connected economies, eventually, like, these currencies will get everywhere just due to the velocity of money. which was one of the problems with all those local currencies, is that you wouldn't have it. But here, eventually it ends up in your account. And I'm just trying to cheat. I'm trying to parameterize it without needing to. So I think that the Trails currency is going to be highly valued at some point in the future. So I preemptively increase my valuation pretty high. As new, if none of that currency is in the economy, then I can move that valuation wherever I want. I can put it really, really, really high if I want to. And then as it starts to get issued or distributed, it's a more substantial discount that I'm offering by having this high valuation. So I probably lower my valuation. And over time, we settle to its final value. So that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. This really simplifies things. Okay. You know, a player just could have a um, with just knowledge of their spending and saving rate. I think that's enough information. I think with just that, I think with just that, you can know, right? Because um, mhm. I think that's the move. Figure out the spending and saving rate of the player. You could either set that as a parameter or you can infer it based on their behavior. We are setting their demand somewhere here. And then I saw this. I saw this and remembered it. It was a demand curve, which makes things way more complicated. But I mean, you could just use past performance, right? How much of their income do they spend on these things? They could say, oh, based on this, turnover is going to be fast, so it doesn't matter. Or I have a really high savings rate, so I need to be careful. Does that mean that people with higher savings rates are more conservative, basically? They have more commitment to the existing, currency that's come through. Right. And those are our wealth equalizing effects. Slash new public goods effects. If new public goods would be valued by the community, then the people with the most money end up effectively paying for it. And that happens autonomously. I mean, it still makes sense. It's just interesting to view it from like this level of abstraction. Because where I was before, I mean, now we're in the details. And it's like the same things that we saw there are showing up again, but now in like new and interesting forms. Okay. I'd like to stop. I haven't written any code. I don't want to write any code. Can't quite tell if that presumption is doing anything for us. Knowing where the valuation, a belief about where the valuation will land changes what you're willing to value because it changes what you're likely to receive. Depends on the concentration that's out there. But we factor for that by just simulating payments. So the equation is something like, you're going to get some payment, and let's multiply it by your, presumption. And that's the value of this payment at the when you reach steady state. And then you could multiply that by the percentage that you think is going to still be around. And that's the total amount of that value that you'll still have in your pocket by the time you reach that steady state. And then I'm so tempted to take a net present value, but it's hard to take a net present value when you don't know the inflation rate. Inflation rates are such a clever economist cheat, aren't they? Like NPVs and whatnot. Can we take an NPV? So the amount of that you'll still hold. Well, I mean, if you could take an NPV, then you just do this. I mean, if you were an economist, you would say times a discount factor. That accounts for how much more valuable it is for you to have money today versus tomorrow. Such a cheat. Such a cheat. Oh, man. Okay, so the value of the payment in light of the presumption times the percentage that you'll still hold by the time you reach that. No, but it's not. It's not that. It's you want to take the integral. You want to take the integral of how much that payment will serve you. I really do think that this requires kind of a trajectory, a spline, like a valuation stack, a stack of valuations that say basically like, what do you think the valuation is going to be at this time in the future? And how much do you expect to be spending? If this feels like unduly complicated or hard or whatever, it's moving the hardness that already exists somewhere else. So, companies already have to do stuff like this for taxes and planning, and they estimate demand and prices and production schedules, and people have to do it when they think about inflation and savings and investment. So it feels hard because it's new, but the total amount of hardness is just being repartitioned. My guess is even in the limit, it's easier. But easier in ways that are like, you get the things that you want in your community. Just kind of like they sort of happen. That's sort of easy. Like beyond even you noticing that it's easy, sort of easy. Yeah. So it's going to be like, I'm going to turn around and spend this in order to buy this thing that I want in this community. Oh, and by that time, this person is going to have set their valuation to this. So, you know what I'm tending towards? I'm tending towards just going back to the benefit array and say like, this is how much this person is willing to pay for this thing. So in addition to their valuation here, they have something that they're willing to donate to, a public good that they're willing to donate to, a small amount. You know, I donate every once in a while when I'm feeling sorry for them. I donate $1 to Wikipedia, and so my annual budget for Wikipedia, $1. Some things will be negative. Be willing to lose business because of it. And I say we just kind of like, heck, let's set those benefits, and then by the time they occur, there's still strategy around it. The funny thing is that when you're a normal human, figuring this out is not hard. You're like, okay, I'm going to try to increase my valuation here a little bit, see if I get some new business. Oh, I got some new business. That's cool. I'm going to increase it some more. Let's see how much, see what the dose effect is. But okay. What do I do? What if we think of the presumption as including a preference? Okay. If we do willingness to donate, what happens? I mean, it all gets spent up front. If we don't spend it all up front, what happens? How might we not spend it all up front? Oh, what do you do? What do you do? This is the third writing utensil I've lost to the floor. It's just too far away to go and get. I have so many. Look, another one. I'm stuck. I'm really stuck. I have to get unstuck. How do I get unstuck? What's the trick? I think we're gonna just have to drop. Okay. We're just gonna model perfectly selfish players that have no interest in a public good. And so they're just gonna follow, the landscape. Mm-hmm. And then what we're going to do, I have really cold toes. Then, what are we going to do? Yeah. Then we'll imagine someone changing one of their valuations and seeing how much other people change with them. Oh, yeah. I mean, they could simulate the economy going forward as a thought. Mm-hmm. And then they'll know. Oh, and then they'll know this. They'll know changing community valuation, given change my valuation. And then there's the metagame and the meta-metagame and so on. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay. So, update function. Your requirements were stupid. The update function now no longer accounts for inflation because there is no inflation to account for. Cool. It's good enough for me. Can I implement it now? Well, it just simplifies this, right? I think this. It gets rid of this. Yep. Now you no longer do that. Mm-hmm. You just do interactions, valuation thresholds, profit. Okay. Figuring out how to compute those valuation thresholds, not going to be easy. But hey, at least we get to do it in code. It's just going to be a lot of, it's going to be writing code finally instead of figuring out conceptually. This is a hard one. I really am done. I just really, really want this to be done. I really want this to be done. I just want to see the results. But there's kind of nothing worse than I've done this before where I've implemented stuff and found that it's no longer informative. And it's not informative because I didn't understand the whole underlying model. And so then it's really easy to kind of fool yourself into your results. You can do it with normal code. Like with normal code, you can just hack away because you see the thing that you expect to see on the screen. When you're trying to run an experiment, when you're trying to find out that you're wrong with some amount of code, you're only able to find out that you're wrong if you have this mental model of what it's going to do, and then the part that you're testing. And then, of course, when you do your write-up, you justify your conclusions on the basis of this mental model, not on the code. And then, it's up to astute reviewers to check that the code and the mental model that you present actually match. And yeah, so I think the investment is worth it because then you can stand behind your work for a really long time into the future. There's nothing quite worse than publishing something that you're like, I don't know if I stand behind that when you're trying to use it as a argument for things that you've tested. Most important rule, don't fool yourself, right? Okay, bye.